Hello and welcome to another Danny Tutors video. For more composition tutorials, please go to my website, which I've linked in the description. As always, contact me or comment below with any questions or requests for new videos. This video will show you how to write an outline for an essay. This is meant to be a follow-up to my previous video about essay structure. Please familiarize yourself with essay structure before writing an outline. After you watch the video, feel free to use the outline templates I've made for Google Docs and Microsoft Word. They are linked in the video description. Before I show you how to outline, I want to quickly tell you why I think you should outline, besides just because your professor asked you to. I honestly outline every paper I write, sometimes before I draft my paper and sometimes after. Outlining before I write gives me a map to follow as I'm writing, so I know I'm writing in the right direction with the right goal in mind. This helps me avoid writer's block because it's harder to get stuck when I know what to write next. Outlining after I write is my favorite way to begin the editing process. By organizing what I've already written into a more visible and obvious format, I can clearly see where I'm missing information and I know exactly where to add it. So that's why I outline. Now I'll show you how to do it. Let's get started. You can use whichever word processor you choose. I usually use Google Docs so my work saves automatically to the cloud, but my computer is a little slow, so for this video I'll be using Microsoft Word. Your teacher may not require this, but I like to write my outlines in MLA format. So make sure you're in 12-point Times New Roman and make sure your lines are double spaced. Add your header at the top and add page numbers on the top right. Before we start outlining, I have a quick disclaimer. The format I'm about to show you is incredibly fluid and adaptable. This format works for many types of essays, but it is up to you to customize it with your assignment in mind. For example, I like to use a kind of shorthand using incomplete sentences in my outlines. You may find it more useful to use complete sentences in your outlines, so you can transfer them directly to your paper later on by simply copying and pasting. To start your outline, I like to add some kind of title, even if you plan on changing it later. For the first line, I suggest summarizing your assignment or the essay prompt. This is the broad question or topic your professor is looking for you to answer or comment on. It's very important to look back at this as you plan your paper so you don't get off topic. Even a fantastic paper that doesn't follow the prompt can earn you an unpleasing grade. Right under your prompt summary, put your thesis. Your thesis is the central claim your whole paper seeks to prove and should directly address the prompt. Remember that a thesis is never set in stone. If you're just starting your paper, anticipate that your research and simply the act of writing will likely cause your thesis to change or become more or less specific. After typing your thesis, start some kind of bulleted list. I like to use Roman numerals, but you can choose whichever you prefer. The largest section of your list will represent a new paragraph. This first paragraph will represent the intro, so I'm just going to call it that. Hit Enter to move down, and then hit Tab to indent and reach the second level of your list. This will represent a sentence inside a paragraph. Because the first sentence of your essay is sometimes called the hook, I'm going to just write hook. Just write here an idea of how you want to catch your reader's attention. After the hook, you need some sentences that lead into your thesis. Depending on your paper, you might want to include some background or explanation of the topic. The number of sentences here varies from paper to paper, so just use as many as you need to lead from the hook to the thesis. Do not begin to prove the thesis here, however. You only want to prove or support the thesis in a body paragraph. After these transition and explanation sentences should come your thesis. Remember that your thesis should be about one sentence. Okay, so that concludes your intro paragraph, so I'm going to make the next line a capital Roman numeral to represent a new paragraph. This one is body paragraph number 1. This is where we start to prove your thesis statement. The first sentence of a body paragraph is called a topic sentence. This sentence functions as a secondary claim, which is like a small part of the thesis. The topic sentence should support the thesis while setting the topic for the paragraph itself. If you were to put all your topic sentences together, they should capture your thesis or central claim. Anyway, let's start with our first topic sentence. So what comes after this is a little tricky. The goal of the sentences after the topic sentence is to prove the topic sentence. In order to do this, you need to provide 3 things: evidence, analysis, and transition. Evidence can take many forms, so choose whatever you find works best for this paragraph. If using a direct quote, I like to actually take the time here to type it out and cite it, so I could just copy and paste it later on. So put your piece of evidence here. After the evidence, it's very important to add analysis. Analysis is the thing students most often skip, but it's usually a very big part of their grade, as it's extremely necessary to proving your thesis. I think students often skip analysis because it seems unnecessary. A good piece of evidence might seem to speak for itself, but it never can. What analysis does is show how your evidence specifically connects to your topic sentence and your thesis. You want to spend a lot of time here and show your reader exactly what you saw in the evidence and why you included it. Ask yourself, why is this evidence important? What is it showing me? And how is it proving my argument? The amount of analysis you need depends on your evidence, but you should always have much more analysis than you have evidence. After your analysis, add a transition to move on to the next piece of evidence. Sometimes this is a whole sentence and sometimes it's not, so use whatever you feel necessary. So now we start over with evidence again, followed by plenty of analysis and a transition. You want to do this until you feel you've thoroughly proven your topic sentence. You might need 3 pieces of evidence, 5 pieces of evidence, or more or less, catered to your paper specifically. Once you've provided your final piece of analysis for that paragraph, instead of adding a transition, write a concluding sentence. This should remind the reader of your topic sentence while leading into your next body paragraph. This can sometimes be more than one sentence, but don't spend too much time here. Just wrap it up. So now we're on body paragraph number 2, and we need another topic sentence. From here, you just repeat. Use multiple types of evidence to make your essay convincing. Add plenty of analysis to make sure each piece of evidence is thoroughly explained and really integrated into your paper. When it comes to how many body paragraphs you need, it depends most on the assignment length and the page count. However, a good paper uses as many body paragraphs as necessary to prove the thesis. The last paragraph of your essay is the conclusion. This paragraph serves to wrap up all of the points you've made and remind your reader of the thesis you have proven in your body paragraphs. I don't often actually outline my conclusions, just because a good conclusion depends so greatly on the tone of the language itself. So I choose to write the conclusion when I'm finishing the paper instead of trying to predict it in an outline. Once you've added whatever you like to outline your conclusion, you're pretty much done. I do highly recommend taking the time now to complete your works cited page, especially if you're choosing to outline before you write your actual essay. Pretty much every student I know has at least once found themselves sweating in panic, writing a works cited 5 minutes before the essay deadline, myself included. So consider finishing it now. The last step to completing your outline is to take a moment to marvel at all the work you've done. But seriously, outlines are one of my favorite parts of the writing process. If you outline before you write your first draft, you have a roadmap for where to go as you're writing. Say goodbye to writer's block or off-topic paragraphs written simply to take up space. If you're outlining a draft that you've already written, I like to call this reverse outlining. You should clearly be able to see what you're missing, giving you a solid game plan for your next edit. Feel free to use my outline templates below to make things a little easier. After understanding how to outline, I suggest watching my videos on editing to strengthen your draft. I hope you outline for your next paper and find it very enlightening. Thanks again for watching the Stanny Tutors video. Happy writing!